So, what's happening? Que pasa? Is that que pasa or que paso? Que pasa. Lost my Spanish. Seriously, what is happening? Seems to be the question, yeah? And I got a couple of texts this week. Interesting question. Is this dystopia? Another one was, is this the zombie apocalypse? And these are from my minister friends. I mean, what has happened? No, actually, these were not from my minister friends. I want to throw my Unity minister friends under the bus. These were from, well-meaning people who are in this question. What the heck? What is this? What's going on? And I was surprised to hear that we've had pandemics in this century. I don't remember going through anything like this. And I've, in my 40 years that I've had a memory, or that I can't even remember that I have a memory. So I don't know. This seems really new, and I think it's hitting a lot of us in a real uncomfortable place, because the hardest thing for us to deal with is not what we know, but it's not knowing, that uncertainty. And so my response to these texts was, no, it's not dystopia, it's not the zombie apocalypse. I think it's a master class in faithful living. It's a master class. I mean, it's a new, we've all graduated, we didn't know this, but we've been gearing up for a greater deepening of knowing who and what we are, which is always challenged when life gets difficult. When life hits the fan, that's when we have to do this work more sincerely, more deeply, more profoundly, more resolutely. We have to be more anchored in the truth of who we are. And so if this is anything from the context of how it would be seen in a universal spiritual perspective, or from even an evolutionary perspective, it would be that this is a master class in us waking up, showing up, and probably growing up to pull up our big boy girls and pants, and to really know who and what we are in the midst of something that we don't know, what it's going to be for us, or what it's going to be for those we love, or any of those things. All of it's under the radar of our understanding at this moment, and yet we're being asked to show up in a way that we will be a non-anxious presence in the midst of this uncertainty. I want to be that non-anxious presence. Don't you? You do not want to contribute to the uncertainty or to the anxiety. You want to be that which knows something deeper and truer that oozes out from your being, even though the mind is confused and the mind doesn't have everything that would give it a sense of peace. We want to go into that deeper place in us that is grounded in the truth of us. And every master teacher has told us that, what doesn't matter what's happening out here, even if it looks really scary, because who we are is not subject to the travails of life, the rises and falls of circumstances and conditions. The Tao is up and the Tao is down. It doesn't affect the soul. A bad day for the ego is a good day for the soul. It just can be that way. Because when who you think you are gets challenged, and it forces us to ask the deeper question about who am I now? Who am I now? In the midst of this, let me do a new identity check. Let me examine the depth of my being, my knowingness in the midst of this situation. And I was reminded today that it was about 50 years ago, actually, it'll be 50 years ago this next month, that Apollo 13, the ill-fated Apollo mission, that was, it looked like it was an inevitable death for the 3 astronauts that went up. When shortly after they went into the air, I guess it was about they were up actually about 200,000 miles from the Earth, that one of the oxygen tanks exploded. And when it exploded, it damaged the other oxygen tank. And it reduced the amount of electricity and food and everything else that they had on this mission. And it looked like they were completely doomed. And we were all like sitting there watching this, and that helplessness, and what is going to be the fate of these people? And in the control room, there was a conversation, and one of the assistant directors said, well, first of all, this prophetic message, or this message that we all remember, that came from the astronauts, Houston, we have a problem. And it was, come again, and they had to repeat, Houston, we have a problem, which was probably should go down in history as the largest understatement that's ever been uttered. A problem, yes. But maybe there's a value in that, is understating the problem by being fully present to it and not over-embellishing it and catastrophizing, because nothing yet had happened other than, the future doesn't look all so good from this place and time. And so the conversation in the control room with one of the assistant directors said, this could be the worst disaster in NASA's history. And there are people right now that are, saying the same kind of things about this virus. This could be, a great disaster in the globe of humanity. But the lead, the flight director, the one, said, in all due respect, this could be our finest hour. This could be our finest hour. And see, the perspective of that takes you out of the fearful mind, the catastrophizing mind that's saying, oh my God, and this could happen and that could happen. All that fear-based thinking does not do anything to bring the resources that could turn a disaster into our finest hour. And what would a finest hour be? It would be us all maybe coming together, like the beautiful song, We Come Together, which I think should be our national anthem, by the way. I don't know if we get to vote on that, but wouldn't that be a great national anthem? We come together, undivided, and anyway, that's another topic. But the truth is, we do have a problem. We do have a problem, and it's not to like do a spiritual bypass, which sometimes these positive New Thought people, we're guilty of that. We just want to see the light, nothing but the light. So help me God, and we don't even want to look at anything that might be difficult or challenging or painful. And see, it's not a mutually exclusive thing. It's not like one or the other. And I think this is the sort of complexity or sort of blending of our humanity and our spirituality that we really need to bring to fore in a time like this, is that I'm not going to deny that there's some virus out there that I might contract, or people I love, or that there might be a lot of, fallout from this could be difficult. It's not to say that it may not happen, but it's to say that also, while that may be true, and we will do everything we can to minimize it, because that's our calling as human beings. But there's another whole context for this in which we live and move and have our being, and that is that we are spiritual beings, and we are having that human experience, but as a spiritual being, we are immune. We are not going to be touched at the depth of us by whatever happens out here. And that's what allows us to stay in that non-anxious state, is to have that sense of, yes, because all the master teachers, everyone who has come on this planet has told us that there's always been problems, there's always been wars and rumors of wars, and there's been pestilence, and there's been plagues, and there's been all kinds of nasty things that have been going on at the time that these master teachers were saying, don't judge by appearances, but by righteous judgment. And righteous judgment doesn't mean denial. It means saying, yes, that is the appearance right now, but there is an overcoming power in me and in you. Every one of us has this overcoming power. And it's not because something was given to us, or because we read the Bible, or we studied scriptures, or we found the right teacher, or we went to the right church, which this is. In case you're watching from home wondering, should I watch next week? Watch next week. Yeah, absolutely. It's just really good. And it's getting better all the time, which is even more exciting, because we are, our purpose here is to transform. And transformation isn't just about candy coating our humanity. It's about honoring our humanity, embracing our humanity, but then really getting in touch with who and what we are and going through that metamorphosis that we have to until we have more sense of identity as a spiritual being, a sense of one that is grounded in peace and wholeness and love, and that's our true nature, and that we walk in that and we talk in that and we become that spiritual being in form. But we don't lose our identity in form. We don't become so attached to the form. This is a cloaking device, by the way, that you and I have taken on. It's we inhabit this vehicle for a time, but it's a temporary device, and it's gonna, even if we're immune from all of the diseases, at some point our Earth visa is going to expire. No one here is immune from that. Right? We're all going to check out at some point. And when we came in, they didn't stamp a date on our forehead showing our expiration date, which is a good thing, right? But we don't know when our time is up. We don't know when this body thing is going to be over. And so if we're clinging to the notion that we're this body, then we're like clinging to a ticking time bomb, yes? And how peaceful are you with that notion? Nor is it a good notion to think you'll live forever, other than the fact that you will live forever. But that has to be knowing yourself not as a body, but as this awareness, this consciousness that you are, that is always witnessing your life. And almost like all of that life is like a play, like Shakespeare said, And we're just like, we're watching it all unfold. And anything that we're watching unfold, even including our own life, can't be what we are. Because if I'm watching what's happening in my life, then who's this one that's watching? It can't be what comes and goes, because my awareness never goes. Have you noticed? Has your awareness ever not been there except when you're in deep sleep? It's always there. You wake up in the morning, it's me. Here I am. You're checking it out. Oh, I'm hungry, or I'm horny, or I need this, or I need that, or, there's always some need, human need, that jumps up into your awareness. And you have to realize that's always going to be there. Can you say that in church? I don't know. I didn't see that. They didn't block it out or anything. So that's why we know people will come back next Sunday. If you just put one little thing like that in there and you don't cut it out, then it's like it's viral in a good way, and everyone wants to watch the following week. But we all know we have these feelings, and those are normal, healthy feelings, right? Right, yeah. But those feelings come and go. But who you are doesn't come and go. So when you're hungry and you have a meal, and now you're not hungry anymore, so the hunger goes away. But do you go away? No, we would like a diet like that, where we could eat and we'd get smaller, but that doesn't work that way usually. So there's this, it seems like there's this great opportunity, without being in denial about what's happening here, for us to sort of face this challenge right now and say it may have human disadvantages, which would be another great understatement, but it has spiritual advantages. The spiritual advantages must be embraced, because then purpose trumps preference, or is greater than. You have to watch your language. Can we get that our purpose in this life is more important than our preferences? Yes. See, if you get that, then that whole notion about, I don't like this, I don't like that, see, that begins to sort of like fade into the background as this context, yeah, but what is my purpose? What am I here for? And when we begin to ask the question, what am I here for, we begin to do things like understand what this mission statement is here. We are here to transform. We are here to wake up to the truth of our being. We are here to show up as the spiritual beings that we really are. And in doing so, we were going to confront some of our old limiting beliefs about what we are, what we were told that we are, and what we thought we are is going to be blown away by this deeper realization, and we are going to feel uncomfortable. And who we thought we are if we were identified with a job, and a job can go away. And then we say, who am I without this job? Or we're in a relationship and we identified as a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and that relationship dissolves. Who are you then? Ask the deeper question. This is the spiritual advantage of lack and loss in the world, because it asks the one question that leads to the one truth that can save us. That can save us individually and as a collective, is to know who we really are. And the winds of fortune and misfortune will continue to blow across this appearance of life, which is the earth, which is the universe on the horizontal plane. It's going to be up and down. Jesus said there will be trials and there will be tribulations, but be of good cheer. Why? Because we enjoy trials and tribulations? No, but you might as well get used to them, because they're going to be there. And if you don't accept them, you're going to suffer even more. And be of good cheer, because there's an overcoming power in me and in you that allows us to walk through life, walk through the fire of life, and have who we are not be burned away, to reveal more of who we are. This is the purpose, which is so much more important than getting our preferences. And I have my own preferences, don't you? Oh, I could just write a list every morning when I get up. You know, I want this, and I want that, I want this to win, I want the president to do this, and I want the government to do that, and I want my neighbors to stop playing the piano until 10:30 at night. And, you know, I just have all these preferences. But, you know, if I let those just, you know, have their way with me, then I am just one miserable, cantankerous old coot trying to, you know, navigate this life. But if I notice that I have preferences, and who is noticing? The self that just notices. And I go, oh, there I am again, you know, I'm hungry, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. But wait a minute, let's just check in to see this one that doesn't need anything. And this is the one when we become familiar with this sense of being that was there when you came into the body in the very beginning, and will be there after you have let it down, lay down this body. That's when we'll know what the masters have known in a body, that who and what you are cannot be diminished, cannot be limited, cannot be destroyed. You know, when Jesus said, you know, destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it up, he was talking metaphorically. And he said, these things that I do, so shall you do. This resurrection principle is not just for a few. It's for every child of God. And who in this room is not a child of God? Who in the world is not a child of God? Who was not made in the image and likeness of God? The Bible makes no exceptions to that, which means that every one of us has the transcendent self. Every one of us has access to the being that is love itself, that is life itself, that is light itself, that does not have a mortality rate associated with it. Can we say amen? Amen? This is what we need to remember. And I want to share, do I have any time left, or are we done? A little bit more? Oh, good, wonderful. So I just wanted to share, this is a story, and this sort of comes into the economic aspect that many people are concerned about too. We've had a major downfall in the stock market, and people are wondering what's going to happen. So I was reminded of this story of Janine Roth. I don't know if you know about Janine Roth, but she wrote a book called Lost and Found, and which is a great title. And after 30 years of her and her husband saving money, and they had amassed well over $1 million, and they invested it in the Bernie Madoff fund. And one day she received this phone call saying, it's gone, you know, it's all gone. And the hysteria, she said, the hysteria and the panic and the gripping fear that came over her. the ranting, right? The blaming of others, the beating up on herself, on themselves, the decisions that they made. All of that came flooding up into her human experience. And we understand that. If you had $1 million, it was your life savings, and all of it was lost in a moment based on a decision that you made and the trust that you had placed, you would be angry and you'd be blaming and shaming in the whole game that we all are very familiar with. And this was going on for a while, and she finally, she had her spiritual friends, and we all have those, don't we? And they were saying like, you've lost your money, but nothing of value is gone. And she said, now is no time to be spiritual. She was defiant, like, don't give me that spiritual mumbo jumbo. Sometimes it's too soon for that. Wait a minute, you're going way too high here. I'm still down here suffering. Now let me suffer. And we do need to rant and get it out. But she did discover that not too long later that it was going to be unbearable to live inside that mind. That if she didn't do something to change her resistance to this thing, that she was going to suffer even more than the suffering of losing all of that money. She said, it became clear to me in a relatively short time that unless I brought myself back to what I had, not what I lost, to what I could find instead of the money that I couldn't, what was already here, that animating aliveness, the indwelling aliveness. See, that never goes away. And we forget sometimes to check in with the aliveness when we've identified with all of the externals in our life and when we go through loss and we feel that that we have somehow been diminished by this. And we need to get very clear and clean in our evaluation of those circumstances and saying, yes, I lost this money, or yes, I lost this relationship, or yes, I lost this job. And many of us have gone through these things, but I haven't lost who I am. And to begin to accept what's happened, even though that's difficult, because to accept it is to say, I'm done with suffering. I'm done with suffering. Because it isn't what happens to us. It's our resistance to it that causes me to suffer. And she says, unless I could bring myself back moment to moment to moment, every time my mind wandered, she said, then I was going to be lost in abject terror. This is the opportunity that you and I have. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's important that we maintain a lifeline of awareness to our sense of being, who we are. However we do that, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through listening to inspirational messages, whether it's reading scriptures, whether it's just finding a way, going out into nature and restoring your sense of wholeness, knowing you are life itself and that this body is temporary. And it's lovely, and I love the body and the experience of the body, and hanging out with my friend Richard and Denise, and we learn how to play, and we swim, and we play golf, and we play tennis, and we do all the stuff the body loves to do, and we eat good food, and the senses are delighted. All that's great, but never losing sight of that deeper sense of being. Because all of that could go away, but you know what? I don't go away. Neither do you. Who you are is invulnerable to the ravages of time and change, loss and limitation. And that's the message. So this is possibly going to be a difficult time. But seen through the lens of who and what we are. And if we commit ourselves to this being a spiritual opportunity and the spiritual advantage, and that nothing is going to defer me from this mission and purpose, to allow this to be something that reveals more of the truth of me, then this could be our finest hour. This could be our finest hour. We may make connections that our physicality could not even approximate by our intention to connect with each other. It forces us to not rely on the physical to be connected. And I just say finally to my good friend Richard, who's here from Sacramento, he and I were good friends for many years, and then I moved away. And for the last 7 years, We've been physically apart and not able to have breakfast and coffee and what we used to do. And we have these profound connections by phone. I think our relationship has deepened with the social distancing that's been required by our life changes. And I would just give testimony to the idea that our relationships don't need to suffer during this time of social distancing, but we have an increased intention to connect with people at the heart. There is an energetic exchange that can happen that cannot be limited by the space that we have to maintain between us. So I'm going to see that as another possibility here. And I would love to know that the people in this room and those who are listening, and most importantly myself, will look for an opportunity to make this situation, this crisis, an opportunity for us to be our finest hour as humanity. And let that be the purpose that we bring to the appearance. Namaste. Thank you. God bless you.